Tonight, a new ER for Winnipeg.
This is a fast-growing part of our province, and it deserves to have its own emergency room.
How soon shovels could be in the ground as the Premier aims to reopen Victoria Hospital's emergency room. Also tonight, defrauded of a small fortune.
You never know who they are, from where they are, and what they can do to you. They can destroy your life.
How a local family was swindled out of hundreds of thousands of dollars. Plus, draining the lake. What officials are looking for as they bring the water level down considerably at St. Malo Lake.
CTV News. Live from downtown Winnipeg with Marilee Caruso.
Good evening. Thanks for joining us. Construction on a new emergency room at Victoria Hospital is slated for March. The ER was one of 3 closed in Winnipeg by the former PC government. And tonight, Premier Wab Kinew says the doors will reopen in the first half of 2027. Standing by live with the details is CTV's Jeff Keel. So, Jeff, is there enough doctors and nurses for a new emergency room in Winnipeg?
The Premier says they are good to go, but the nurses union says there's no guarantee of that. Premier Wab Kinew says his government is on track to fulfill one of his big campaign promises, reopening an emergency room in South Winnipeg.
We're announcing that we are starting construction on the new emergency room here at the Victoria Hospital.
At the 2-year mark of his term, Kinew says a contract to build a new ER at the Victoria Hospital will be awarded this month with shovels to hit the ground in March. And the Premier says the doors will open in the first half of 2027.
We don't want people driving past their community hospital to get the care that they need. You should be able to get it right here in South Winnipeg.
The province says the new ER will replace the existing urgent care centre. It will include additional inpatient beds and more room for diagnostics.
But the opportunity to serve our patients and their families in an appropriate and thoughtfully designed space, well, it's a bit of a dream come true for us.
Under the former PC government, 3 of the city's 6 emergency rooms were closed, leaving South Winnipeg without one.
To go to the St. B, that's too far.
I think it's important. There's a lot of new developments in the area, and the nearest one isn't particularly close.
The nurses' union hopes the plan is real, but calls it ambitious, questioning how the new department is going to be staffed.
As we still have a lot of nurses who are saying they're working overtime. There's lots of vacant shifts. They're still working with really heavy workloads. So it worries me that there is confidence.
The province says the 2025 budget includes $3.5 million for the consultation, design, and first phase of construction.
Will there be an intensive care unit at the new Victoria Emergency Department?
No, but the province says there will be a high observation unit. The Premier says this will resemble an ICU. Patients with acute needs will receive one-on-one care from nurses. The nurses union says the key to having a full emergency department is having an ICU. The Premier insists this is a true emergency room.
All right, thanks for this, Jeff. Winnipeg police have identified a suspect in connection to a fatal shooting in the spring, and they're asking for your help tonight tracking him down. 33-year-old Paul Xavier Bonnick is wanted on a Canada-wide warrant for second-degree murder. Investigators say Bonnick may now be somewhere in Ontario. He's considered armed and dangerous. Anyone with information is asked to call the homicide unit or Crime Stoppers. Those outside Winnipeg are asked to call 911. It comes after 39-year-old Ralph Moyes was fatally shot May 23rd in the 300 block of Cumberland Avenue. A Winnipeg family is out $200,000 after falling victim to not one, but 2 scams. CTV's Danton Unger has their story.
It destroyed everything. Destroyed our life.
It started about a year ago when Galena Bailey says she and her husband found an investment company on social media which they believed to be legitimate.
They were investing in Netflix, in Tesla, you know, those companies. They were showing us how it's growing. We had our page there on the computer where we could see it, and nobody realized that it just empty page.
Months later, she says their so-called financial advisor started threatening them, saying they owed thousands of dollars in credit and had to pay up or go to court.
That's a common thing that we see, scammers capitalizing on pressure tactics.
Tyler Ritchie, an investigator with the Manitoba Securities Commission, says in cases like this, you should always take a step back and get a second opinion, because once the money's gone, it's hard to get back.
Fiat currency gets converted into cryptocurrency and then gets moved from wallet to wallet across jurisdictions, and it becomes very difficult to trace.
With $50,000 lost, Galina says she turned to a UK-based lawyer she found on Facebook, who promised they could get her $500,000 in compensation. But she believes this too turned out to be a scam, as she was being asked daily for more and more money.
He offered me to sell my kidney to pay him.
With their savings drained, Galina says her family took out loans, lines of credit, and equity from their home to pay the lawyer, totaling $150,000.
It's something that we see way too often.
The Canadian Anti-Fraud Centre says investment fraud has cost Canadians more than $1 billion since 2022. It warns everyone to be on the lookout for red flags.
Verify if the investment company is registered with our national registration tool at aretheregistered.ca.
Galina doesn't believe she will ever get her money back, but she hopes this story can be a warning.
It can happen to you too, one day.
Danton Unger, CTV News, Winnipeg.
The Premier says new efforts are looming in his bid to balance the budget. Wab Kinew says a government-wide effort on cost control will be announced soon, and he says departments are being given targets ahead of next year's budget. Earlier, he was asked about possible changes to vacancy management as a means of reining in costs.
In the past week, you've seen massive headcount reductions from Accenture, Imperial Oil here in Canada, Lufthansa in the EU, driven by automation and the use of artificial intelligence for what is white-collar work. So the reason why we're starting with a investment target exercise for departments is because we want Manitobans to have time to think about, are we going to invite AI-based job displacement into our province? What is the right mix of public sector jobs in our economy? The question of vacancy management fits underneath some of these bigger picture macro societal goals. And I think these are going to be really, really important for us to answer in the next few years.
Figures released by the Finance Department last week showed the province ran a higher than expected deficit of $1.1 billion in the last fiscal year and is on track to miss its target again this year. A Brandon school was evacuated and students sent home this afternoon after police say a threatening email was sent to the school. Police say while there was no immediate risk to Vincent Massey High School, officers responded around noon and parents were told to pick up their kids as soon as possible. The force says the incident is being investigated by the Major Crimes Unit. A spokesperson for the Brandon School Division says Vincent Massey will reopen as normal for any games and activities this weekend, and classes will resume Monday. The city of Winnipeg showed off some new technology today that turns traffic lights green when emergency vehicles approach. As we showed you earlier this week, the city is expanding its emergency vehicle preemption system.
As they're approaching every intersection, they're slowing down, speeding up, slowing down. That start and stop makes a 4-kilometer distance take quite a while. If they can consistently drive at 50 kilometers throughout the distance, they can get about a kilometer further or a minute further of normal driving time.
Here's how the system works. Fire trucks and ambulances are outfitted with a special device that sends cellular and radio signals to receivers installed at intersections. The signal triggers the lights to change so emergency vehicles can get through more quickly. The city says the technology can reduce response times by as much as 20%. It's also designed to increase safety.
We had an engine involved in a motor vehicle collision earlier this year. It was a total write-off. These vehicles are over $1 million themselves. So if we can reduce collisions, as Linda said, by 90%, that's significant.
Fair enough.
The city's been testing the system for a year now in high-traffic areas like Osborne Village. The city will equip more than 430 intersections with this by 2026. All right, let's bring in Colleen Brady now and get a first look at our weekend Skywatch forecast. And by the looks of that map behind you, you are tracking some rain.
It's hard to say, yes, because we've had such a good run of exceptional weather to start off the fall season. That's coming to a pretty abrupt end and a pretty soggy one as well. There will be rain all throughout the weekend, and it will just become more and more intense as we go, so much so that Environment and Climate Change Canada issued a rainfall warning for a good swath of southern Manitoba, south central regions, and all across the southeast. Winnipeg right in the thick of that. I will show you coming up how much rain is going to fall and how it's expected to fall over the course of the weekend and when it will move off. And a look at the temperatures that await us next week. They will be different than the very warm ones we've been enjoying. Let's take a look right now, though, first through the Bath Fitter Live Eye. Bath Fitter, your bath and shower experts for more than 40 years. In Winnipeg right now, 25 degrees with a humidex. It feels like 28. Winds light from the east. The pressure's falling, and the humidity right now merrily is 49%.
Thanks, Colleen. 2 people are facing charges following a series of break-and-enters that left multiple people injured. It happened Sunday night on 3rd Avenue West in Hodgson. That's in the Interlake, just north of Fisher Branch. RCMP say 2 suspects broke into 2 homes, assaulted the people inside, and damaged property and vehicles. They were unable to break into a 3rd home. 5 people were injured, including 2 who were taken to hospital in serious but not life-threatening condition. 2 men from Peguis, aged 27 and 25, were arrested nearby. A major cleanup is now complete in a Centennial neighborhood park. This after vandals tagged the playground with racist and vulgar graffiti. The incident is alarming to the city's Black community, which says there's no place for hate in Winnipeg. CTV's Daniel Helmerson reports.
Alderman John O'Hare Park is a small, quiet green space in the shadow of the Slaw-Repchuk Bridge. But when families showed up to play here Thursday morning, they found spray paint on the play structure, picnic tables, signs, and even the trees. And among the tags were racial slurs directed at our city's Black community.
This is not an isolated incident. This is happening all over the city, and it's unfortunate.
Black History Manitoba's Nadia Thompson says taking a public space may seem like mischief, but it's still hurtful and hateful.
And whether you're attacking the Black community, the Jewish community, the Asian community, Indigenous community, it all comes down to hate.
Winnipeg police tell CTV News their hate crimes investigators probe these types of incidents. City officials are urging people to report any and all hate-motivated vandalism immediately.
It is important because it leaves an indelible mark on the community, those members that see it. It's, you know, if I had walked by there today and saw that, again, it would have impacted me personally as a person of color.
Councillor Vivian Santos, whose ward includes the park, says racism has no place in the city, especially on a public playground used by children.
It's disheartening to see that we are still faced with racism and hateful crimes and graffiti in our city. You know, I never want my children to grow up to see that.
By Friday afternoon, city crews rolled a final coat of paint to cover up the graffiti. But Nadia Thompson says the fight against racism is far from over.
It's a hard pill to swallow, and as a community, we have to figure out how we can work together and to alleviate these incidents from happening at all.
Daniel Halmerson, CTV News, Winnipeg.
The province is bringing its battle against zebra mussels to the St. Malo Reservoir. Water levels are being dropped by up to 10 feet. And as CTV's Harrison Shin shows you, exposing the bottom of the lake will help the fight.
Cindy Broughton owns the Prairie Alchemist Cafe in St. Malo. She's been in the area for about 2 decades, but this is the first time she has ever seen the bottom of the lake at the provincial park. Take it off. Yeah. And the reason?
We did end up having a bit of a zebra mussel infestation.
Zebra mussels are an invasive aquatic species that are becoming an issue across Manitoba. They were first detected here last summer, and now the province has brought the fight to its shores, something Broughton hopes will make a difference.
And the government has decided to drain the reservoir to help eradicate the problem and keep our reservoir healthy and available for use for multiple years to come.
This University of Manitoba scientist says the mollusks are resilient.
Zebra mussels are really the poster child for aquatic invasive species. They spread
incredibly quickly.
The province announced they will drop the lake by roughly 10 feet, something Higgins says it will help with surveillance.
They should expose a lot of these hard, rocky surfaces and the infrastructure around the lake, like the docks. And this is going to make it a lot easier for the provincial personnel to go around and look.
It's quite a change of landscape for locals.
They basically can walk from their backyards like right onto the base of the lake.
Broughton said while kayaks and canoes may stay away, she hopes new visitors will come here and take in the rare sight.
It has piqued some people's interest to come out and take a look and to see for themselves kind of what this is, because again, it's something that there's a lot of people who've never seen this before.
Harrison Shin, CTV News, St. Malo.
A Winnipeg personal care home will begin filling 18 beds that have been sitting vacant amid a dispute with the Winnipeg Regional Health Authority. The beds are at Lyons Manor in downtown Winnipeg. In a letter addressed to the WRHA and obtained by CTV News, the executive director of the company which operates the personal care home said Lyons Housing Centers terminated its personal care home agreement on April 1st of this year. The letter says it stopped admitting patients due to inadequate funding and relief of current losses, and says the WRHA also blocked its proposed staff rotation plan. Health Minister Yusoma Asagaras has had discussions with the WRHA and Lyons about the ongoing issues.
I myself, like I said, have sat down and met with Lyons Manor, and I've been very, very clear that our expectation is that all beds that are funded by this government should be open, available, and accessible, and admitting residents to that personal care home, and that the staff who provide that care should be able to do so on the front lines of our healthcare system.
In a statement, a WRHA spokesperson said in part, it wants to reassure staff, residents, and families there will be no job losses or permanent bed closures. Asagara said the WRHA has been directed to be prepared for the possibility it may need to assume responsibility for Lyons Manor, but hopes that won't happen. A city councillor wants Winnipeg to look at new rules around fireworks. Waverley West Councillor Janice Lukes has put forward a motion which would see the public service explore how other cities handle the issue. Specifically, it's looking for a list of cities where the sale or use of fireworks are banned, what the fines are, and what rules are in place governing their use. Currently, a permit is required to set off fireworks within the city, and the permit holder must agree to certain safety conditions.
This is not an atmosphere that is going to make these type of negotiations easy.
A new mission to Washington, when the Prime Minister will meet with Donald Trump, and why there may be cause for optimism.
Your morning just got a little brighter. Start your day with CTV Your Morning, and you could win $20,000. For your chance to win, watch CTV Your Morning Winnipeg, weekday mornings 6 to 9.
Taking a look at the markets tonight, crude oil added 40 cents. The Canadian dollar is nearly unchanged at 71.6 cents U.S. Gold jumped another $40. The TSX gained 311 points. The Dow Jones rose 238 points, while the Nasdaq lost 63 points. The value of farmland in Manitoba increased by nearly twice the national average this year. That's according to Farm Credit Canada, which says the value of cultivated farmland in our province rose 11.2% between January and June. That's well ahead of the 6% average seen countrywide. The report notes all regions in Manitoba saw increases, with the Parkland and Westman regions appreciating the most.
Specifically to Manitoba, we have seen the last number of years, just the supply of farmland coming to market hasn't been that much. So, and still strong demand from farmers to expand their operations, grow their business. So when land does come up for sale, there's a lot of competition.
FCC notes the increases may cool by year's end as farm revenue and interest rates factor into those equations. Some major developing news tonight out of the Middle East. According to Reuters, Hamas has conditionally accepted U.S. President Donald Trump's proposal to end the war in Gaza, which was previously agreed to by Israel. But the Palestinian militant group did not directly address terms requiring it to disarm, leaving the next steps up in the air as Israeli forces move into Gaza City. CTV's Judy Trin is following the new developments.
Reuters is reporting that Hamas is accepting the peace deal put forward by U.S. President Donald Trump. This after he issued an ultimatum earlier today. On social media, Donald Trump wrote that an agreement must be reached by Sunday evening at 6 p.m. Washington time. This is the last chance agreement, Trump wrote, and all hell like no one has seen before will break out against Hamas. This peace proposal was first unveiled on Monday by Trump after he met with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. The 20-point peace plan calls for Hamas to release all 48 hostages, 20 of whom are believed to still be alive. Hamas members must agree to decommission their weapons and commit to peaceful coexistence. In exchange, Israel would also release nearly 2,000 Palestinian prisoners and gradually withdraw from Gaza, while a stabilization force led by Arab nations would eventually take over security in the territory. Now, this is happening after several countries, traditional allies of the U.S. and Israel, such as France, Britain, Australia, and Canada, recently recognized the state of Palestine last week at the United Nations General Assembly. Now, the war in Gaza is nearing 2 years. It would have reached its 2-year anniversary on October 7th. Palestinian officials say that more than 60,000 people have died and nearly 2 million people are at risk of starvation. Judy Trin, CTV News, Ottawa.
Canada Post has presented a new offer to the Canadian Union of Postal Workers promising modernization.
We've also brought forward changes that will enable us to, put the transformation in place that the government has directed us to do so that we don't continue to become a drain on the taxpayers.
The proposal includes a 13% wage increase over 4 years, a defined benefit pension, health and post-retirement benefits, up to 7 weeks vacation, and a cost of living allowance. The Prime Minister is gearing up for another trip to Washington. Mark Carney is preparing to meet with U.S. President Donald Trump next week. And CTV News has learned some movement is expected on steel and aluminum tariffs. CTV's Abigail Beeman reports.
Why don't you just join our country? You become 51, become the 51st state.
It will be Mark Carney's second White House visit since becoming Prime Minister in a deja vu era of 51st state remarks.
As long as this continued reference to the 51st state remains foremost in the president's mind, this is not an atmosphere that is going to make these type of negotiations easy, and it's something that absolutely enrages Canadians.
The Prime Minister has been tight-lipped lately about any progress with the president, his office not always saying when they've spoken.
Have you talked to Donald Trump recently? Yes. What'd he say?
But next week's visit will aim to keep trying to get a deal on punishing American tariffs, as both countries also launch consultations for the upcoming review of CUSMA. One source tells CTV News Canada is expecting progress on steel and aluminum tariffs, but not autos. In a rare public update, the top minister on the Canada-U.S. file told a Senate committee this week he's hopeful there can be a separate deal ahead of CUSMA.
I'm hoping we can get progress before the review process formally engages, but time will tell us if my optimism is misplaced.
The embassy is abuzz, Canadian embassy is abuzz with visits and people reaching out and meetings. But maybe I think Mark Carney knows that sometimes the principal has to get into the room to close the deal. And I'm hoping that Mark Carney's trip to Washington to meet with President Trump will be about a deal and not just more conversation.
In addition to LeBlanc, the foreign affairs and industry ministers will be joining the Prime Minister on his trip to D.C. Abigail Beeman, CTV News, Ottawa.
A deadline from Canada's Supreme Court is fast approaching relating to that standoff at an ostrich farm in British Columbia. The Canadian Food Inspection Agency has until today to respond after the top court put a stay on executing around 400 birds at the site in Edgewood. Authorities have been trying to take that step following an avian flu outbreak. The farm's owners have pushed back, gaining support from some demonstrators. The country's top court is now deciding whether it will weigh in. Lower courts have said the cull should be able to proceed. As the United Kingdom comes to terms with yesterday's deadly car and knife attack on a Manchester synagogue, police are sharing some new information about what unfolded as community members gathered for Yom Kippur prayers. They now say it appears one of the two men killed at the scene may have been struck by a police bullet. The Greater Manchester Police Chief says a forensic exam found the victim had a wound consistent with a gunshot injury. He said the attacker did not have a gun and the only shots fired were by police. The 35-year-old suspect, who was wearing a fake explosives belt, was fatally shot by officers. 3 other victims were seriously hurt in what authorities described as a terrorist attack. Police have also arrested 3 other people. Drone sightings forced Germany's Munich airport to shut down overnight. Thousands of passengers were left stranded.
Why are they doing what they want to provoke with this? It's strange.
It's the latest in a series of drone sightings that have disrupted European air travel. There were drones spotted at airports in Denmark and Norway last week. There are concerns Russia is behind it, although the Kremlin has denied that. Germany's interior minister says legislation will be coming to allow armed forces to shoot the drones down. A judge in Manhattan has sentenced Sean Diddy Combs to 4 years and 2 months in prison and fined him $500,000. The disgraced hip-hop music mogul was convicted in July on 2 counts of transportation to engage in prostitution. That was for flying people around the U.S. for sexual encounters, including his girlfriends and male sex workers. The judge said a lengthy sentence was needed for deterrence and said he's not convinced Combs won't re-offend if released. In court, Combs apologized for any harm or hurt he caused ex-girlfriend Cassie Ventura. Prosecutors said the 55-year-old has no remorse, noting he was so confident he'd be sentenced to time served, he booked speaking engagements in Miami next week. A beloved Winnipeg restaurant is closing its doors after more than 4 decades of serving up prime rib and martinis. The owners of Maxime's Restaurant and Lounge announced in a social media post they've decided to retire. The restaurant's land and building on St. Mary's Road have been sold, and the plan is to close the restaurant in the coming weeks. In the post, the family thanked its staff and many guests, writing, "Their journey has been one of extreme love and labor." The family restaurant first opened its doors in 1984. It will close for good the 3rd week of November. Cleaning up the streets of Winnipeg, how the city plans to get graffiti removed from vacant buildings faster.
Rain will begin on Saturday in different parts of southern Manitoba. Here in Winnipeg, expected by Saturday night. It will continue all night long and all through the day on Sunday, a high of just 13 degrees. Then the sunshine returns. These summer-like temperatures we've been enjoying, they will not. We'll have temperatures much closer to where they ought to be for this time of year. 12 on Monday under a mix of sun and clouds, sunny and 10 Tuesday, abundant sunshine Wednesday, warming up to 16, 19, and mostly sunny Thursday.
Have a news tip? When you see news happening, let CTV News Winnipeg know. Text your tips, pictures, and videos to 10400. That's 10400. Message and data rates may apply.
The city wants to make it easier to remove graffiti from vacant buildings. A motion making its way through City Hall would permit city crews to enter onto a property to remove graffiti and then add the cost to the owner's taxes. Right now, the city can only remove graffiti from vacant buildings with the owner's permission or if the owner doesn't successfully appeal a compliance order. Last year, the city removed more than 69,000 square meters of graffiti from 7,500 separate sites. The city is looking to settle a 23-year-old land dispute with Manitoba Hydro. At issue are 3 properties the Crown Corporation says it should have received when it bought out Winnipeg Hydro in 2002. They're located on Pacific Avenue and Princess Street, along with a 20-acre property near Pointe de Bois the city didn't even know it owned. Before they can be transferred, they need to be declared surplus land, which is why the Property and Development Committee will be voting on this next Thursday. Turning to the gridiron now and some high school football. Last night, the home team Techbach Hornets were taking on Murdoch McKay, and this one was a high-scoring affair. In the end, Techbach wins 49-32. Now, in some of the other action last night, the Churchill Bulldogs defeated the St. Norbert Celtics 25-9, and Springfield destroyed Maples Collegiate 48-0. The Winnipeg Seab Bears will stay downtown for the next 3 seasons. The basketball franchise has renewed its lease at Canada Life Centre.
Here's the Seab Bears in transition. Chateau gets the pass from Roberts.
Since 2023, the Seab Bears have drawn record-breaking crowds at Canada Life Centre, now considered one of the premier basketball venues in Canada. In a release today, the Seab Bears thanked True North Sports and Entertainment for its continued partnership. This year, Winnipeg played host to the Canadian Elite Basketball League Championships, transforming downtown into one big party venue. The lease expires after the 2028 season.
CTV Skywatch weather brought to you by South Beach Casino and Resort. Visit southbeachcasino.ca.
Colleen Brady back now with more on that rainfall warning she's keeping an eye on for us.
I'm going to show you that, but I think this is probably going to be the last night we're going to do this as well. I want to show you where warm weather records were set yesterday in the province. We'll do that quickly because there are some pretty significant temperatures. Take a look at this, upper 20s. One I want to point out is Dominion City, 29.3 degrees there yesterday. That beat a record that goes back many years, all the way back to 1957. And you can see as you look at those different communities, 1957 and 1975 were particularly warm years, as was yesterday. Yet again, more warm weather records set in Manitoba. Things are changing with that rainfall that is already starting. It's going to come in waves. The first one is already in Manitoba, courtesy of an advancing warm front coming up from the U.S. It's triggered off this rain you see falling through Swan River, Dauphin, across the Interlake, and it is continuing east into northwestern Ontario, where there's a little bit of lightning firing off there. We could see thunderstorms develop in southern Manitoba overnight tonight, and that could produce some pretty sizable hail. That's pretty much the first of this. That will continue into tomorrow morning in some areas, but this rainfall warning is pertaining more to what's coming after that. Now, at this point, south central and southeastern Manitoba under that rainfall warning, including Winnipeg. Now, you'll notice out to the west, places like Brandon are not at this point, but still a significant rainfall is headed Brandon's way on Saturday night, but even more so for these warned areas. We are expecting as much as 50 millimeters of rainfall in these warned regions over the course of the weekend. Not so much tonight, though. We may get a little bit of a rain shower activity here in the southeast and across the south, more so north of the city. Places like Gimli, there's a better chance you'll see some rain coming through there, maybe even thunderstorms. This again moves off into northwestern Ontario. Now, this warm front that I was talking about, it's going to stall out. It's going to be joined by an incoming Colorado low that's going to bring much more rain. Throughout the day, though, that's not really the issue. Although parts of the north will see rain, we're keeping our eyes peeled on what's coming up from the south. And then as we get into tomorrow evening, that's when it looks like the bulk of that rain is really going to get going. Look at how intense this rain will be coming down in those warned areas. Now, at this point, no rainfall warnings in effect yet in northwestern Ontario. That could change. We could also see those rainfall warnings expanded further into southwestern Manitoba, because this rain, it's just going to keep coming down all throughout Saturday night, overnight, and throughout the day on Sunday before it finally starts to back off later on Sunday. 13 is our low tonight with the risk of thunderstorms. Those stronger winds will diminish mid-evening or so. They'll be light tomorrow morning, mix of sun and cloud, 15 degrees. There's a chance we could see showers as early as late tomorrow afternoon. A high of 20. You can see those winds out of the north, strong and gusting. Tonight in the northeast, just a few clouds over Churchill, down to 4 there. Conversely, soggy with rain in Island Lake. 7 and cloudy in Thompson. Cloudy in Thompson tomorrow, 15 degrees. In the northwest tonight, best chance of rain is around Norway House, down to 10 degrees. Lynn Lake, the better chance of rain is in your region tomorrow with a high of 13. In the southwest tonight, watch for fog in Brandon overnight, down to 12 there. Dauphin and Swan River, you may well see some showers come through. Cloudy around the region tomorrow, highs in the upper teens, low 20s. Winnipeg in the southeast, best chance of rain or thunderstorms is outside of the city to the north and to the east. And then tomorrow, chance we'll see some rain during the day with highs in the low 20s. It'll be tomorrow night when that rain really picks up. Northwestern Ontario, likely to see some rain tonight in Kenora and Dryden, and that will continue as well into your weekend on Saturday. Our first weather photo, well, it looks like a painting, doesn't it? This is from Neil. This, of course, is Grant's Old Mill, taken right here in Winnipeg. And heading out to Pinawa, onto the golf course. This is hole number 4. Karen says it was a beautiful day out there. Send us your weather photos to Winnipeg Weather at ctv.ca.
A new report suggests the vast majority of Canadians are obese or overweight. Those details next in Medical Watch. Rich in nutrients, immune-boosting proteins, and beneficial bacteria, breast milk has long been hailed as nature's perfect food for babies. But did you know it also holds a lot of benefits for moms and the economy? This is National Breastfeeding Week in Canada, and joining me now to talk more about the benefits of breast milk is Megan Azad, Director of Manitoba's Interdisciplinary Lactation Centre and a well-known research scientist on this topic. Megan, so good to speak with you.
My pleasure. Happy Breastfeeding Week.
Let's start with some of the health benefits of breastfeeding for babies, because it really goes far beyond being just nutritious, right?
Absolutely. So breast milk is a food, of course, but it is so much more than that. So it provides immune benefits, helping babies prevent infection early in life. It can also help them longer term. So it's associated with lower risks of asthma and obesity later in childhood, for example.
And moms who breastfeed can also see long-term health benefits, even cutting their risk of some cancers, I understand.
Exactly. So we focus a lot on the benefits of breast milk for babies, which makes sense, but we often forget that there are maternal benefits too. So the research shows that moms who breastfeed have lower risks of, as you mentioned, certain cancers, breast cancer, ovarian cancer, also cardiovascular disease, as well as type 2 diabetes.
These health protections from breastfeeding go a long way to cutting healthcare costs, hence how I kind of tease that it helps the economy. Can you explain how it does this?
Exactly. So, I mean, healthier people are using less healthcare dollars at the end of the day, right? And so that's a big part of it. But you can think of this in many ways. So, for example, if babies are breastfed and therefore get less infections, they're less likely to have to stay home. Their parents are less likely to have to stay home from work. So there's not just the healthcare dollars, but also the dollars that are saved by people being more contributing to the economy.
Despite all of this, not all moms breastfeed. I know I had a difficult time doing it with my first son. Are there enough supports available to moms these days?
Excellent question. So although we focus on the fact that breastfeeding is natural and the normal way to feed a baby, that does not mean that it's automatic or easy. And a lot of moms do struggle, especially in those first few days, especially when it's their first time around. So often a mom needs some support, and hopefully they get that from nurses at the hospital. So nurses should all be trained in supporting breastfeeding, but sometimes they need even more help than that, right? They might have a really specific issue with milk supply or latch. And for that, we have lactation consultants. So these are professionally certified individuals who are trained in supporting lactation. And ideally, we'd love to have some of those in every hospital where babies are born in Manitoba. But historically, that hasn't always been the case. For example, about 7 years ago, when the new government came in, there were cutbacks, and one of our hospitals cut the lactation consultants. We've now got research and evidence to show that that resulted in lower breastfeeding rates and more formula feeding in the hospital. So this shows us how important those supports really are. And it goes beyond the hospital too. So there are breastfeeding support groups, there are peer mentorship programs, a lot of supports available, but we can always have more.
What is your advice to moms or moms to be successful when it comes to breastfeeding?
Yeah, I think an important message is every drop counts. So there are recommendations that moms should try and exclusively breastfeed for 6 months and keep going up to 2 years and longer. And that is wonderful if it works for you. But if it doesn't, that doesn't mean you shouldn't try, because every drop counts. We see literally benefits from just 1 or 2 days of breastfeeding, because that first milk, which we call colostrum, it looks very different. You can tell it's kind of gooey and yellow color. That's because it's full of important antibodies for the baby. So even a couple days is helpful, and every bit longer you can go is helpful. And so we know that it's not always easy in the first days, but there's help out there for you. And so really just to keep going and to look for help if you need it.
Well, Megan, I want to thank you so much for your time tonight. You win for the best background I've had in a long time as well. Great speaking with you.
Thank you. All right, my pleasure.
New reporting from Statistics Canada suggests most Canadians are obese and overweight. The data says nearly 70% of Canadians between 18 and 79 years of age have a body mass index which classifies them as overweight or obese. The government agency says its finding is based on a Canada Health Measures survey of Canadians conducted between 2022 and 2024. The survey also found abdominal obesity is widespread, with roughly half of Canadians possessing a waist circumference in excess of Canadian thresholds tied to greater health risks. Researchers at McMaster University and MIT have made a scientific breakthrough that could offer new treatment options for people with inflammatory bowel disease. Canada is one of the countries with the highest rates of Crohn's disease and colitis. Patients with those conditions suffer from inflammation in their digestive tract. There's no known cure, but there are treatments, and sometimes doctors will prescribe antibiotics to help patients address flare-ups. The researchers involved say those treatment risk killing good microbes along with the bad, but using an AI tool, they were able to develop a narrow-spectrum antibiotic that directly targets E. coli bacteria while reducing unwanted collateral damage. The findings were published in Nature Microbiology. Health officials in Alberta are confirming the province's first measles death this year, a baby born prematurely. The baby, whose mother contracted measles during pregnancy, died shortly after birth. Children under 5, people with weakened immune systems, and those who are pregnant are at highest risk for measles infections. Health experts say measles cases have gone up as immunization rates have declined.
The measles, mumps, and rubella vaccine we've been using again for the better part of 30 plus years here. We know it's safe, we know it works.
Officials are now urging anyone planning on getting pregnant to obtain 2 measles vaccines before they conceive.
Medical Watch is brought to you by Manukin Koster Denture Clinic.
Another video game is getting the orchestral treatment right here in Winnipeg. Plus, get ready for plenty of freaky fun. Boo at the Zoo is back. We'll tell you all about it next in Spotlight.
Spotlight, sponsored by the Casinos of Winnipeg, presenting Honeymoon Suite with guest Lee Aaron.
Well, now that it's October, that means welcome to Spookyville. Tonight is opening night of Boo at the Zoo at Assiniboine Park Zoo. Boo at the Zoo is back and better than ever. Experience the debut of Spookyville, a mysterious and magical town filled with Halloween haunts and spooky surprises around every corner. Enjoy carnival rides, craft stations, a curious cast of new and returning characters. Boo at the Zoo runs for 21 nights from tonight right through until Halloween. Thousands of people are expected to attend, so plan ahead and buy advance tickets. You can do that at booatthezoo.ca. The Royal Winnipeg Ballet School is combing North America for dancers over the next few months. The RWB is holding auditions in 12 cities in Canada and the U.S. The auditions offer dancers the opportunity to join one of the world's most respected ballet training institutions. The RWB School is internationally recognized for transforming talented young dancers into versatile, world-class artists. New artistic director Christopher Stowell will personally host auditions in Toronto in November and Chicago in February. Full audition details and registration are available online through the RWB's website. You don't have to be a gamer to appreciate the awe-inspiring orchestral suites coming to Winnipeg this spring.
Predation. Do not be deceived.
The Philharmonic Orchestra will be playing the scores from 3 games in the epic Japanese fantasy series Final Fantasy. The show is happening March 22nd at Centennial Concert Hall. Tickets are on sale now. Just head to centennialconcerthall.com. All right, folks, what's orange and yellow and heavy all over? Well, that would be the massive pumpkins you can expect to see Saturday over the annual Rollin' Pumpkin Fair. The day gets started with a pancake breakfast at 8 a.m. and the weigh-in begins at 10:30. You can also expect to find a market, musical entertainment, and activities for the kids. And at 5, head over to the arena grounds for the highly anticipated giant pumpkin drop. We'll start your weekend off with some great entertainment. At 7, take a spin with Celebrity Wheel of Fortune, and Special Forces World's Toughest Test is on at 8. It's all right here tonight on CTV.
Mayor by day, superhero by night? Why Scott Gillingham rappelled down a building dressed as Batman.
Women's clothing provided by RW & Company. Salon services provided by S Antique Spa Salon.
Well, we didn't set a warm record here in Winnipeg, but we still reached 27 degrees. Tonight, there's a chance of showers. We drop down to 13. Now, there's a chance of showers Saturday afternoon, 20 degrees, but the rain moves in Saturday night. It will continue all night long and all through the day on Sunday. Drier and cooler next week.
Thanks, Colleen. Scott Gillingham is Winnipeg's mayor, of course, but it seems when he isn't bringing order to City Council, he's swinging into action under a different name, Batman. There he is. That is Mayor Gillingham rappelling down the HSC Children's Hospital building. And he wasn't alone. As you can see, several people dressed in superhero costumes joined him, making this scary descent down the building. It was all for a great cause. This was the 4th annual Suspend Superheroes fundraiser. The idea is to bring some magic into the hearts of sick kids and bring some much-needed fundraising dollars to the Children's Hospital Foundation of Manitoba.
All the funds goes back to the kids here at the hospital. So you can see that the children's are up in Child Life. Upstairs, they're all in the playroom area. And so Child Life is a very important part of our hospital and our activity here. It makes sure that kids can be kids even when they're in hospital.
The goal for this year's fundraiser was to bring in $60,000, and participants smashed that mark. They brought in more than $88,000 today.
Great job.
Yeah,
So
by
much
everybody.
fun.
Great costumes, too.
Including Batman.
Yeah.
Batman Gillingham.
He can get a couple of uses out of that. Is Halloween coming up, too, so.
That's right.
All right, that does it for us tonight. Have a good one and a great weekend. We'll see you back here Monday.
Good night.